There is $44 trillion in retirement plans, and 7 out of 10 people who have a 401k can't name the company who manages it. Is this a problem? What is a 401k? Notice how none of you can explain what a 401k is. It's a what? A tax advantage? For who?
It's pre-tax.
For who? But I pay tax later.
But not really, it's pre-tax.
I know, but what do they tell us 401ks are? They're retirement plans. How many of you have met someone when you said, hey, how did you retire? They went, oh, my 401k. Do you guys know what the median, not the average, actually, I think I know both. The average 401k with Fidelity right now for people who are entering retirement, 60 to 65 years old, has $680,000 in it. The average. The median is $395,000. Guys, if I gave you $685,000 at 65 years old, how long would your retirement last? In California, 1 month. You guys with me? Guys, a 401k was never set up to be a retirement plan. It was set up by a gentleman by the name of Ted Benna to save a small bank from going out of business in 1980. He leveraged a tax law, and guess what subsection it was? Subsection 401k. And it was to save a small bank from going out of business, and they decided not to take action with it. And he goes home to his law firm, accounting firm, and he tells them the situation, how the bank didn't want to go for it, even though it would have saved the bank. And the owner of the law firm goes, well, we're doing it. And guys, I don't know if you're aware of this, but in 1979, there was no such thing as a 401k. And in 1979, 90% of companies offered a pension. 9 out of 10. Today, less than 10% of companies offer a pension, but every single one of them offers a. Because think about what it does. It takes the liability out of the company's hand and it puts it into the employee's hand. We don't have to pay these people till they die, and people are living a lot what? Right. So let's put retirement in their hands. We'll tell them there's a tax deduction, and we'll give them a bribe. We'll say we'll match 6, 8, 10% of what they put in there up to a certain dollar amount, and they think they're getting free money. Guys, a 401k was never meant to be a retirement plan at all. Now, I'm teaching this to you guys, but who do I talk about this with? Potential private lenders. Because guess what? They don't know anything I'm sharing with you right now, right? Guys, 401ks, there are 2 people who win in the situation, and you're not one of them. You know who wins with a 401k? The people who manage it and Uncle Sam. You and Uncle Sam are almost tied for how much money you actually get at the end of your 401k. Crazy, right? Hey guys, be checking your phones for those of you who scan the QR code, okay? Now watch this. A lot of people have no idea the amount of fees that are inside of a retirement plan or the mutual funds, what they're charging in fees. Because it wasn't until 2012 they had to start disclosing the fees that were inside these retirement plans. And then people got really, really vocal about it. Now, good luck finding the amount of fees that you pay in your mutual funds and your retirement plan, because it's in a prospectus, and I'm guessing the print is about this big. But there are people who got out there and got very vocal about this because nobody knew about this. Nobody knew that there was fees inside of a retirement plan. And this guy came out, and God bless him, before he passed away, John Bogle, who founded a company called Vanguard. Vanguard, are they big time or small time? Them and Fidelity are always number 1 and number 2 with assets under management as it relates to 401ks. Well, John Bogle, before he passed, he sells Vanguard, and then he goes around bashing companies like Vanguard. And he starts peeling back the curtain and showing people all the fees and how they're getting taken advantage of because nobody knew this. Because it wasn't in the prospectus that we never read when we got the pamphlet from our job. 91 days after I started my corporate job, my human resource advisor walked in and she said, hey, you qualify for a 401k? I was like, what's that? And she goes, it's a retirement plan. I go, how's it work? And she goes, I'll be right back with your brochure. And then I went cubicle to all my friends and I was like, hey, do you have a 401k? And they're like, yeah. And I'm like, how does it work? And they're like, None of them knew how it worked, but we all signed up for it because we followed the herd. And guys, when you follow the herd, you have a tendency to get slaughtered. So you can't complain about your 401k turning to a 200k when you lose 50% of what's in there because the stock market crashes. That's what happened in 2007 and 2008 when my 401k crashed. But John Bogle, the founder of Vanguard Investments, do you guys think he knows how these fees work pretty good? He's the founder of Vanguard. Of course he does. So he goes on to this PBS Frontline special called Can You Afford to Retire? Right? Now, guys, read this along with me because this, you might get angry when you read this. You might get angry. The founder of Vanguard, founder of Vanguard, one of the world's largest mutual fund firms, this is his quotes, his word. He addresses how the financial system undermines social ideals, damaged trust in the markets, and what? Robbed investors of how much? Trillions. Guys, no bank has ever been hit up for $1 trillion. No 7-Eleven in LA has ever been knocked off for $1 trillion. So if he's right, this is the biggest heist in history. And the founder of Vanguard is saying we are being robbed by trillions. He discusses why the entire retirement system is what? The entire retirement system is what? Faltering. And in particular, he criticized the mutual fund industry for emphasizing salesmanship and stewardship and pushing 401k plans. He also warns 401k investors about mutual funds often hidden costs and fees, which over the long term can consume a huge portion of investors' return. Hidden cost and what? Fees. How many of you in this room would never do business with a company that has hidden costs and fees? Raise your hand nice and high. How many of you are? I had one guy come up to me after this presentation. He goes, I don't have any hidden fees in my 401k. I go, how do you know? He goes, I've never seen them. So John Bogle, guys, write this video down. It's called Can You Afford to Retire? It's a PBS Frontline special. You can YouTube it. I send this to every potential private lender I have because the majority of people have a 401k and do not know these fees exist. So how many of you guys would like to ask John Bogle how these fees exist so you get the real answer? I do. All right, well, he's dead. But with AI, we can bring him back. No, I'm just kidding. Can you play that video for me, John? Yeah. Can you afford to retire?
To understand this fee business, I went to talk to someone who has thought long and hard about it. Jack Bogle, the founder of Vanguard, a company that offers some of the lowest fee products on the market. He says that if you want to improve your retirement outcome, make sure to minimize Wall Street's take.
Costs are a crucial part of the equation. It doesn't take a genius to know that the bigger the profit of the management company, the smaller the profit that investors get. The money managers always want more, and that's natural enough in most businesses, but it's not right for this business.
Bogle gave me an example. Assume you're invested in a fund that is earning a gross annual return of 7%. They charge you a 2% annual fee. Over 50 years, the difference between your net of 5%, the red line, and what you would have made without fees, the green line, is staggering. Bogle says you've lost almost 2/3 of what you would have had.
What happens in the fund business is the magic of compound returns is overwhelmed by the tyranny of compounding costs. It's a mathematical fact. There's no getting around it. The fact that we don't look at it, too bad for us.
What I have a hard time understanding is that 2% fee that I might pay to an actively managed mutual fund is going to really have a great impact on my future retirement savings.
Well, you have to rely on somebody to get out a compound interest table and look at the impact over an investment lifetime. Do you really want to invest in a system where you put up 100% of the capital, you the mutual fund shareholder, you take 100% of the risk, and you get 30% of the return?
I wanted to know how others would react to Bogle's claims. J.P. Morgan Chase offers more than 100 mutual funds that charge anywhere from less than half of 1% to more than 2.5% annually. I want to get your reaction to an example that Jack Bogle gave us, and that is that if you invest over a 50-year investing lifetime in a mutual fund, making 7% a year on average, but you're paying 2% in fee for that. That 2% will erode something like 2/3 of your gains.
So the lower fees relative to any given investment will always result in higher accumulation.
But is his example correct? I mean, it's shocking that you would be giving up 2/3 of your...
So I don't know the math behind the example.
But does it
that
sound
you're
correct?
Citing. It sounds high.
It had sounded high to me as well, so I took Bogle's advice, found a compounding calculator online, and used a simple example in order to isolate the effect of fees. Take an account with a $100,000 balance and reduce it by 2% a year. At the end of 50 years, that 2% annual charge would subtract $63,000 from your account, a loss of 63%, leaving you with just a little over $36,000.
What kind of emotions do you guys feel when you hear that type of stuff? Anger? No, we're not taught that, right? There was a couple things that always stick out to me about that video. Number one, what John Bogle says. You put up 100% of the capital, you take 100% of the risk, and you get 30% of the return. And then the guy says, I don't know the math behind the example. You work for a bank. Your whole goal in life is to know the math. But when you ask hard questions to people, and they shake in their boots like that, it's interesting, right? But most people who travel in the herd, they don't challenge this. They don't test this. They don't question it because everybody else is what? Everybody else is doing it. So when I saw this stuff and I found out that, man, I wasn't really in control of my retirement plan, I wanted to take the control back. How many of you guys want to take the control back? Say, I. So I figured out what you could do with it. Now, guys, I'm not an accountant. I'm not an attorney. I'm not a financial advisor. I'm not telling you guys what you should do. This is just what I did. I found out I could take a loan for my 401k. And if I had a TSP, I could do the same thing as long as I was employed by that company still that offered it. And what I found out about these loans is that you could borrow up to $50,000 or 50% of the money that was in there up to $50,000. And you can typically pay it back over 5 years, and there is no prepayment penalty, meaning you can prepay the loan whenever you want. You don't get penalized for doing so. Now, in most cases, when you pay interest on a loan, it's a bad thing, but in this case, it's a good thing because you're paying the interest to who? You're paying the interest to yourself. So when I found this out, I got on the phone, and here's the funny thing. I was one of those 7 out of 10 people who didn't know who managed my money. And when I saw that video, I went into my email to figure out who it was, and guess who it was? Vanguard. So I called up Vanguard, and when I told them I wanted to take a loan, oh my goodness, they were so nice about it. They're like, absolutely, Mr. McNicholas, no problem. Would you like some caviar while you wait? Guys, you know what they did? Everything they could to what? Talk me out of it. Do you know if you take a loan, you're going to get taxed, you're going to get penalized, you're going to pay interest, we beat you with a stick for 2 hours in a dark room? They did everything they could to stop me, because as soon as I do this, guess what? Those fees stop working for them. But I fought, and for over an hour on the phone, I finally got it done. And within 7 to 10 business days, I had $46,000 wired into my checking account because I had about $92,000 in my 401k at that point. And I had $46,000 available to me that I really needed at the very early start of my business, of my residential redevelopment business. And what was crazy, though, is I sat there and I was like, hold on, I just got a cash infusion of $46,000 off of money that they told me I couldn't touch, and I had to wait till I was 71 and a half. And all of a sudden, I did something that was against the herd, but then I had this epiphany. I work with a bunch of morons, just like me. So I literally went cubicle to cubicle, all my friends, and I said, hey, I'm having a party on Friday night. They're like, well, what are we going to do? I go, well, it's called 401k night. And I invited them all over. We played that video. I broke down the fees and how it works. And guess what? They got angry, and they wanted to do something about it. And I was like, guys, don't worry, I got you. And they're like, well, what can we do with it? And I go, you could take loans up to 50% or $50,000. So let's say I can get $50,000 out of my friend Matt, right? And all of a sudden, he invested in this house. Now, here's the deal, Matt. I'm going to pay you 12%, right? Annualized interest, right? You're only going to pay 1 to 2% above prime, which ends up being about 3%. But that's interest that you're paying to yourself. So between what I pay you and what you pay yourself, you're about to make 15% on your $50,000. You pay the interest to yourself, the 12% I pay you, you can keep, and you could keep reinvesting in my deals for 5 years and there's no prepayment penalty. You pay the interest to yourself, you keep the interest I'm paying you, and I don't know if your 401k is growing by 15% year in and year out, but with me it's going to. And all of a sudden, all my fellow employees became private lenders because they wanted to take back the control. How many of you just learned something right there by a show of hands? Now watch this. How many of you in this room have an old 401k, an old IRA that's collecting dust and it's not sitting there doing the right things for you? Say aye. Okay, watch this. So I had this Vanguard 401k for my W-2. And then I got educated. And I learned about these things called SDIRPs. What are they called? SDIRPs, self-directed retirement plans. And the only reason why I learned about self-directed retirement plans is because my tax strategist was like, hey, Sean, you're doing well financially. We got to figure out a way to reduce your taxable income. And I was like, well, what do we do? And he's like, all right, we're going to set you up with a solo K. We're going to set you up with a company-sponsored 401k. Whose company is it? Never met him. Heard he's extremely handsome, tells amazing jokes. Obviously not, right? And I said, well, how does that work? And he's like, it works great. And I go, all right, cool. And then all of a sudden, I had 2 401ks, but as soon as I no longer worked for this company, I was allowed to roll over every single dollar into this new self-directed 401k. And if I want to take this money in this account and I want to invest in a tax lien or a tax deed, I can, and all the profit goes back in, tax-free or tax-deferred, depending on what account it is. If I want to wholesale a house, I can do that, goes in tax-free or tax-deferred. If I want to flip a house, I can do that, tax-free, tax-deferred. If I want to buy a rental property in the name of my self-directed retirement plan, all the cash flow can go back in tax-free and tax-deferred, or tax-free or tax-deferred, depending on what account it is. And I'm like, holy cow, I finally get to control my retirement plan. Now, how many of you guys think that's pretty powerful if you knew how to do this stuff by a show of hands? I don't do any of that. I do one thing and one thing only with my self-directed retirement plan, which is what? I'm a private lender, baby. So let's say that Jeff comes out to me and goes, hey, Sean, I need $600,000 for this deal I'm doing. It's $400,000 for the purchase. It's $200,000 for the renovation. But the ARV on this thing is $849, so there's a lot of margin on this deal. All I need is $600,000. Well, what's the most amount of money I could take a loan on my 401k? $50,000 or 50%, right? But that's if I took a what? He needs $600,000. How much can my self-directed retirement plan invest? So you're telling me if my buddy Jeff over here needed 600 grand, because I'm not taking a loan, it's not a loan, it's not a loan, it's not a what? It's an investment. I could invest 600,000. Let's say Jeff pays me 12%. I'm not good at math, but 12% of 600,000. Let's say the deal takes 12 months and I get $72,000 in interest on that deal. Well, the $600,000 I invested in the $72,000 in interest goes right back into my self-directed retirement plan, 100% tax-free. Now, I will pay tax later, right, because it's a 401k, it's not a Roth. But here's the other cool thing. What's the max that I can put into my 401k this year for 2025 as an individual? Because I'm under the age of 49. I forgot to mention this. I'm 44 years old today. It's not my birthday. I was 44 years old yesterday. I just forgot to mention. You guys fall for these ones. So easy. Well, this year, and Lindsay, correct me if I'm wrong, but 23.5 is the number as an individual that I can contribute to my 401k as an individual. But I have a company-sponsored self-directed 401k. How many of you in this room have a 401k and your company matches a certain percentage of it? What percentage do they give you? 6. What do they call that? A bribe. Because guess why they incentivize you to guys, do they match your 401k out of the kindness of your heart? What do they do it for? Tax write-offs. Duh. And the more you put in there, the more Uncle Sam gets. And I know this sounds crazy, but how many of you guys think Vanguard, Fidelity, and the government are in cahoots? How many of you think Vanguard, Fidelity, the company you work for, and the government are all in cahoots? I don't know about you guys, but our control is under attack these days. It's time to take the control back. Watch this. Well, my employer loves me so much. My employer values me as an employee, so they give us the max incentives we can. So my employer matches the max the IRS will allow this year, which is $46,500, which comes off of my business's taxable income. That's the company match. Amy also is an employee of the company. She puts in her individual contribution, and the company matches $46,500 for her too. So that's about $140,000 that just came off of our taxable income and goes into an account that can invest and build for our future. So let's say I did this deal and we made $72,000 in interest. I did my individual contribution and the company match. 70 plus 70, that's $142. All of a sudden, I have $742,000 to invest. And we can do this like Lionel Richie all night long. How many of you just learned something right there by a show of hands? How many of you want to learn more about this self-directed retirement plan stuff? I didn't know any of this stuff, but there are two amazing people that came into my life when I needed them the most. And when we were building this RPM thing, we needed people we could rely on for self-directed retirement plans. We needed the best. And the first person that I met over 20 years, or let me not screw up the math, 18 years ago was a gentleman by the name of Mark Kohler. Mark Kohler is the first guy who ever made taxes sexy. Like, he made it fun. Imagine taxes being fun. This guy knew how to do it, but he had this much smarter business partner named Matt Sorensen with one T. And Matt and Mark were both attorneys and accountants, but they knew the self-directed retirement plan stuff in and out, and they decided to create a company called Self-Directed IRA.